Stephanie, how's it going?
How's it going? You know. Okay.
This is going to be something very weird for anyone who watches my videos, because we're not going to be talking about art or business. We're not going to be talking about any of that stuff. You are my neighbor, first of all. You're just crossroad, but because of the mandate social distancing, we don't really have a chance to have this conversation face to face. And I always wanted to have you on my channel because, first of all, you're a very interesting person. You are a war journalist. You have shared with me a lot of stories that I think, despite the fact that are not related to the field in which I work, they're still very interesting. They're still very inspiring. Would you mind introducing yourself to my audience so that they have an idea who they're listening to?
Yeah, sure. I'm a journalist. I'm Fabio's neighbor. We definitely don't get to hang out now anymore, which is a bummer. Yeah, I've been working in journalism for decades. I don't want to date myself too much, but working a lot in the Middle East, Africa, Europe, and like you said, the focus has been pretty much war zones throughout the years. Everything from the war in Syria, Iraq, the battle for Mosul, Libya, Egypt, all of the revolutions or upheavals of the past years. Also, Gil, the cameraman that I work with, we covered Ebola in Africa when there was the outbreak there. And Ukraine, we were in and out of Ukraine for a very, very long time, and in Crimea, and we were there before Russia took it over, afterwards to see the differences. So a lot of that. And that has been the focus of most of the work that I've done.
Now, you know, the filter that the TV, the internet puts in front of people sometimes make things look a lot easier than they sound. But I've seen you wearing bulletproof vests. You were really in the middle of the action, right?
Yeah, but it's all relative. I mean, the middle of the action, yes. I mean, yes, we've come under fire. We've been caught in sniper fire, in mortar fire. I was shot in the head and injured by a stun grenade.
I love how you say, yeah, but it's relative. You know, I just got shot in the head and... Okay, it's all relative.
Because I think of my peers, and I think of some of my peers who have just been like caught up in very, very precarious. Sorry, that's the dog. Who've been caught up in very, very like dicey. I guess because it's first person, I don't see it that way. But there have been times like you say, you know, haha, you're so casual about it. I will say there's sometimes, because when you're right in the middle of it, you don't even realize what's going on because you're just, you're acting, you're just doing what you need to do. But, you know, we were held at one point at gunpoint in Ukraine, and we thought we were going to be shot, and we were like begging for our lives and saying, no, we're journalists. And when we got back to where we were staying, they had a pool there. And, you know, I didn't even realize it, but I jumped in the pool. I thought, okay, I'll swim some laps, And it wasn't until I had done a length of the pool that I realized I still had my shirt on. I was absolutely in shock. I mean, so yeah, not even realizing it.
You know, I'm laughing, but it's not a disrespectful laugh. It's just that we have had these conversations in the past, and it baffles me how humble you are about everything. But anyway, the reason why I wanted to have this conversation with you, it's because there is one thing that you told me the other day when we met in the streets taking our dogs out for their needs, which is the way it seems to you like governments are handling this. It does feel like we were in a situation just like in war. Do you mind expand a little bit on this and share a little bit your point of view on this whole Corona thing, because I have the feeling that a lot of people are still wildly underestimating all the political and economical implication of the situation that we're in. But, I let you do the talking, and then later I share some of the things that I think are a little bit worrying when talking to, young people and
Right.
guys that still don't understand what it's happening.
Look, I mean, I think I read a great quote now, just, like now we're reading all the time, which is great, actually. But I read something that said, the one thing we don't get is a crystal ball. I don't know. I don't know really behind closed doors. I mean, we all can see how Donald Trump is handling things, in a public way. We can see how Benjamin Netanyahu is handling things. We can see, et cetera, in terms of world leaders. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know. But what I said to you is that this, to me, feels like every war zone I have ever been in on steroids, just all combined, like all put together. And the reason for that is because of the characteristics, when I think I did a TEDx talk, and I talked about the fact that people so often, that they'll be in war zones and they think we have answers, and they'll say, why is this happening to us? Why is this because nobody ever expects my town, my city, my home to be in jeopardy. Of course, I have no answers for them, but that is what this feels like. Like, there's no, and what I say to audiences, or what I've said is, it can happen to anyone. Nobody is immune. We think that we're immune, we collectively in the world, I'm American, so it can't happen to me, but, well, here you are. And the thing is that there are no answers. There's no solution. And the hallmarks that I see from war zones of, the panic buying, shortages. I don't really want to go too much into what goes beyond that after that, but some of the things that can be very scary. I mean, we don't have the snipers and we don't have the mortars, but this is a war. And I think what's interesting, I mean, I know, of course, we're here. So Israel's leadership, or Israel, Netanyahu, he described this as a war, and they're handling it like a war. They've set up Situation Room, and the Home Front Command is handling, taking over in terms of operations, and we're going to be policed and watched and monitored so that we keep our, social distance from each other. There are a lot of good reasons for that, because this can descend into total anarchy and chaos. It wasn't, I was like, it was a matter of time for me till the National Guard or the Army in the U.S. starts moving in, because that is a country that also, you've got the right to bear arms. People have weapons. And when people get scared, places like Libya is where they were awash in weapons, and that's where it can get very dicey, and what starts happening in neighborhoods, what starts happening between people in desperate situations. So, I mean, this feels why on steroids? Because it's, leaders of all countries are trying to get grips on it and look to China, let's see how they handled it. And let's see, okay, so they did this and it looks like this. And scientists from all angles, scientists are studying it, and governments are studying it, and militaries are studying it to try and get ahead of the curve and try and stay ahead of it. But it still feels like absolute chaos. So when people have been criticizing, we got a directive, but it wasn't clear and they didn't really say, they don't really know. I mean, they don't really know. That's the sense. It's not like that's that. At the same time, leaders can take advantage of the situation as well, and it can be super, super dangerous. With some of the leaders that we have in place, no names shall be mentioned, but I have mentioned some names already, that can, once they get over that sort of hysteria and they've got underground bunkers. I don't. That they can see the opportunity in this. There is opportunity in this as well.
Yes. To me, the most scary thing is that when everything happened to slow down and jobs were put on hold, I was having this conversation, we are diplomats here in Israel. I was having conversations with friends of ours which are also diplomats and they are working for the government. And because of the fact that now there is such a situation, some governments are already cutting the money for like international relationships because they simply cannot afford to keep people here if there is no business in between the countries, if tourists are not coming. And so these are people that eventually might lose also their jobs. And people used to say, if you work for the government, you're safe. But we're seeing even governments at the moment with these 3 or 4 weeks of complete shutdown going broke. And this to me, it's very scary. And I don't think that people understand what is happening. To me, it's really scary because that's what I do. I work as a consultant. My main specialty is strategy. Money come and goes. And at the moment, there is no money being made. Money is only going. There is no money coming. It's getting scary, I have to say. I don't want to flip out. I don't want to overreact. But I'm just observing the world around me. And yes, I try to do everything that I can to keep a positive attitude. But we need to start putting this money machine back in motion. Otherwise, we're going to run out of supplies. We're going to run out of actual cash. And I don't know. To me, it's all, as you said, nobody knows. But to me, for what I'm saying, it's scary. I mean, only in Israel, I think that something like 50,000 people lost their jobs overnight. 50,000 people. I mean, what does that mean? It's like, what are these guys going to do? Because, during the 2008 crash, if you lost your job, you could still go into a restaurant and wait tables. You could go and pick up garbage, work as a janitor somewhere. There was job available. Now you cannot do anything. You have to stay home. You cannot move. There is no such possibility. And I think that the thing that scares me the most is the fact that a lot of people, the reason why they're not reacting to this, it's because they never been through a recession. I mean, I've been through one recession where I was working and I had to make ends meet. And since then, in the back of my head, there was always this idea of like putting a little bit of money aside for a rainy day, so to say. And I don't think that people nowadays think about that kind of stuff. But anyway, what is your take on this?
On which part of it? On the fear factor?
Yes,
or the
yes.
which part of it?
Yes, the fear factor.
Look, I haven't talked to anyone who's not scared. People are scared. I mean, and people handle things in different ways. My feeling is actually on the money part, I mean, that's another sort of like the hallmark of war zones is when governments start controlling how much cash you can take out. And that set off like alarms a few days ago when Benjamin Netanyahu said, but, everybody, you can still get cash. And I'm like, well, why did he say that? Why did he bring that up? Because every war zone I've ever been in, it's really like Ukraine, Libya, anywhere where it's an intense war zone, there is no cash. The cash in the banks shut down. There's nothing. Maybe it's really, and there's a lot of fear, but maybe it's naive, I don't know, of me to say, I have faith in the strength of community. And And what I mean by that is, in the worst case scenario, yeah, what are people going to do? There's not an industry really that hasn't been hit, except for the 𝘊𝗀𝗃𝗃 or the scent in toilet paper. But industries are being hit really everywhere, really hard. And on just the very basic level, you end up bartering, or I can't think that far in advance, but the picture that's being painted in terms of the haul that we have, like this is long haul, this is a virus that mutates, they don't have a grip on it yet, and I know that they say that China's coming back to normal. I would want to see that firsthand. Because the predictions are a lot for much longer period of time, and they got hit beginning of January. We're now in March. That's 3 months. Everyone seems to be looking at this 2 months. There are a lot of indicators. People are talking about the heat, temperatures. It's a virus that can't, and it seems to be like a 2 or 3 months seems to be the magical, I don't know what. That could also be just to give people some hope to hang on to, something to hang on to. It's an impossible thing to wrap your mind around.
Yes.
And to wrap your head around.
And I think this is the reason that people are mostly scared of, is because as of today, the people that you can hear Pepper also barking. The thing that I think that the people that I respect the most, the thing that they tell me the more often is the fact that this is something that they really like looking at it in a logical way. They simply cannot think of anything other than to speed up the research of a vaccine, and they hope for the summer to bring a little bit of a slowdown in terms of infections, because people want to go out, they want to enjoy themselves, and they want to live their lives outside, which is obviously what everybody wants. People want to go back to work, and people need to work. It's not that every company has allowed their employees to work from home. Many, they simply had to let people go because they had no business anymore. Have you heard any positive news so far about the corona which you think are reliable and that give us a little bit of hope, despite the fact that, as you said, I also trust the community, and I hope that people will come together when it's time in order to, fight together instead of fighting one another. But have you heard any positive news that you think, okay, we're seeing sort of a little bit of light at the end of this shitty tunnel?
No. I mean, not on that level, because the end of the tunnel is just not even in sight. The tunnel isn't even in sight. I think specifically here, we haven't hit the worst of it. I think we are about to go into sort of like the Italian mode. What I hang on to are little, it's also what I talk about with it, is my glimmers of hope, or the beauty that you find in war zones, the glimmers of hope, which the research, I mean, it's just a mad race right now for research. And that is what I'm hanging on to. I know that an American company just took something yesterday to clinicals, first human trial. As well, I know that I read that Israel is starting with some stem cell, possibly going to try some stem cell. I mean, everyone's trying different therapies. And I would imagine they'll speed that up. That's something to hang on to. As far as the human condition goes, it's, the way people are coming together and, volunteering and helping people out and calling people and, or taking things to people. But as far as an end in sight, no, not at all. I don't see that at all. And I am seeing like it's, what it does seem is that maybe that could be the American thing. I'm, reading things there is that when you have the wherewithal, you have money, then you have access. That's just logical. You have more access to treatment and better treatment and that kind of thing.
To me, it was
for me. What's it? Go ahead.
No. To me, it was a super scary thing that Trump tried to put his hands on this German company that was working on the vaccine, and I don't know if he did it because his intentions were, to really help Americans first. But from what I've read, is that they were interested in bringing this company to America and making it an American company. Is this fake news? Is it reality? Have you heard about this?
I didn't read about that.
Yeah, and so basically...
we want... yeah, go ahead.
No, it's just that, things like this scare me a little bit because I'm like, how far does greed go, When do we start to put humans first and then we think about profits? Because what is profit without any humans? If we all die because of this thing, what is having a job going to do for us,
Well, what is any of it? On a lot of levels, when people say, and this is also where I can't hang on to some, like the glimmers of hope, there's a lot of introspection. We have a lot of time now to think, and fear drives that, but thinking, reevaluating, reprioritizing, it has brought what's important to the fore, more or less. And yeah, I think there are going to be greed there. It's just like anywhere. There's going to be greed. There's going to be fighting and not helping out and that kind of thing. And that's just going to be. And it's like Gil said yesterday. Again, the cameraman I work with, he was like, "This will basically divide between the people who are like, well, it's all about me now. I'm going to just watch out for myself," or I don't think it's that simple, or the people who don't and help other people out. I think we all can vacillate between both of those sides. But to a large degree, yeah, there's a lot to think about right now. And I can't, for me, it's too mind-boggling to try and sort of think ahead and, I analyze and try and keep ahead and try and think. But you know how it is. Your family is somewhere else. Yeah. My family is somewhere else. And I'm sure you've thought, well, if the worst, and your parents aren't young, neither is, my mom. And you think, well, wait a minute, could I even go if I had to?
Yeah.
No. Yes, I'll be let into the U.S., but am I going to leave my son at home?
Yeah.
No. We're going to, I think some people, it's like about making, it's just like, wow. And that's mind-boggling to think about. Like a few weeks ago, we were at breakfast together.
We were.
And it's crazy. And we were joking about this, a few weeks ago.
Look, I think that countries like Italy, they've come to the conclusion that this is really a big deal and they're taking action and they're self-quarantining themselves and they're taking everything serious. And I think that this is helping. I talked to a friend of mine, the husband works as a doctor, and he's a doctor that goes and pick up people at home, people that are sick. And they have a lot of mathematicians and physicists which have offered to work for free and to do calculations on how the curve is evolving, and so they're analyzing data. Italians are getting together and they're doing it. And now there are countries which first criticized Italy for being not prepared, which in a way wasn't what it was, because what happened is that in Italy we have very high standard in controls. And so if something happens, the Italian doctors and the police and everybody, they'll go to the bottom of it. And so they were the first ones to find out that there were a lot of cases. But I can guarantee you, I talked to people in Switzerland, the Swiss medical community, they got silenced by the banks because they could not say that there was an outbreak in Switzerland, simply because they're afraid of people pulling out their money from Swiss banks. And now everything got out. You know, it's in the open. So, you know, I look at Italy and I'm like, I'm hopeful, because I see that when people are put against the wall, in a way they have to come together. Otherwise, oh my God, pepper is so loud. And now I can hear it in like 360.
You hear it in stereo.
Stereo. And so, you know, now I look at Italy, I look at what is happening, and I'm like, I am hopeful that people will come together when they need to. It's just that I think that people should proactively talk about this and be prepared when this is going to happen also to them. Not to close themselves inside and hoard fucking toilet paper so that, you know, there is no more toilet paper anymore, but try to be civil, you know, because it's not like you win. If you win, another person has to lose. Instead, if we stick together, we could all come out of this. And probably I'm talking in terms of like, in apocalyptic terms. But, you know, as you said, 1 week ago, we were joking about this. And now we're self-quarantining. As far as I'm concerned, I talked to a friend of mine and he told me that in the north of Tel Aviv, there is the military in the street. You know,
yeah.
and
I mean, that was a matter of time. I mean, they did call up reservists. That's not a surprise. I'm surprised they're not here. Because it's a mixed neighborhood and the tensions could flare there, who knows? But that's interesting. Yeah, I think they'll be here in this neighborhood as well.
Anyway, Stephanie, let's try and wrap this thing up. Should we remain positive? Is it worth for us to embrace negativity and just become protective of what we have, and or should we try and be more open and try to be available if people need it? I mean, I already know the answer, but you know, let's hear it from somebody that has experienced what it's like to be in a place where there is a revolution going on.
Well, here's the thing. I will say, I was thinking while you were talking, the difference here is that, like, and this for me has been I've felt very helpless, because even though we're out there and we're covering, you know, we're going and we're doing stories, or, you know, like we're covering what's going on around this, I feel like it's meaningless in the scope of everything that's going on. And for me, the badasses that I'm like, total respect are the medical people. I'm like, wow, those guys are above and beyond. I think, look, you're saying, like, should we try? You know, everybody does what they can with what they have. And, you know, it's not everyone will talk about it. Not everyone will process it or deal with it in the same way. And that's just the way it is. I mean, like, yeah, that's just the way it is. I don't know. Of course, it's better to, you know, like, of course, it's better to your nervous system to try and think about positive things or hang on to positive things, or, you know, I mean, like, my kid, Rafa, he was like, you know, I can't, because I'm like, oh, man, I don't want to hear it anymore. I can't hear anymore, like, because I'm all like, oh, wow, you can't believe what you did. And I got it. And then I was like, he's right. He's absolutely right. So if it's hanging on to running up and down the stairs or doing sit-ups or watching comedy or volunteering or I don't know what, something, writing, documenting what you're thinking or going through this whole thing. I think you know how they say you can only take care of the world if you take care of yourself, kind of thing.
Yes, that's true.
And I think that's like, it's something to strive toward, is to find something every day, like that ray of sunshine for you. I know it sounds very sort of like la 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 la.
No, I know, but I know what you mean. And the thing is that, what I keep saying to people that come to me is, act like nothing happened, meaning don't let this event disrupt your life, because then you're going to attract even more negativity towards you. And I see it, I have friends of mine and even clients that have lost clients, they have lost work, and they're like, okay, I'm giving up. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that we're going to get out of this. But the moment that we're going to get out of this, you need to be prepared to go back to work. You need to be prepared to have the motivation and the love for the job that you do. If you're going to give it up because this happened to you, I think that you're going to fall into this negativity spiral that it's just not going to help anyway. I've been through the recession of 2008 and I remember exactly the feeling, what it was, and it's very similar to what we're experiencing right now, because it's like we're powerless and we want to do stuff and there is no chance to do it. And so, this might be the chance for people to cool down a little bit. They have to stay at home, read, meditate, focus on some of your craft, spend some time to do positive activities rather than feed yourself with a lot of information that it's just going to fuel that negativity and alarming state. Because, for social media and for marketing and for all these things, that state of mind, it's great for selling stuff. And at the end of the day, there is always people that are looking to sell you things. The other day I was scrolling my Instagram and there was a course for $499, how to make money during a recession. And I'm like, in the past I've done courses like this, and what they tell you is, you need to have the money to invest and buy stocks that are crashing, and then later on you're gonna make money. It's not a solution to a problem, Not a lot of people have the money to invest, and not everybody is willing to look at a screen and look at the investments and sell high and buy low, So it's like, I don't know, I just want people to stay home, stay safe. Don't worry too much about what it's happening, because when we're going to get together, when this is going to happen, if something is going to happen, I'm pretty sure that we're going to come together as humans. I'm pretty sure of it. And it's not like, if we stick together, this is not going to be a war, like one person against another. We're going to be together trying to help each other out with whatever needs to be done. At least I hope. And I hope that you have a positive take on this as well, because I hold your opinion of high regard.
Listen, I think the world that we knew up until now is over. We have just entered a new reality. Now, I don't look at that and go, I don't know what that new reality brings. But I think that we've just entered a whole new, world-changing phase for everybody. The comfort in that is we're all in it together. We are all in this together.
Yes.
And there's going to be shit. There's going to be crappy stuff that happens and nasty stuff and bad stuff. It comes with it. You can't just have one. You have, it works together. But it's up to the individual to decide. To decide how do I want it to look for me? In the worst or the most dire of situations, who do I want to be? And that's an individual decision. Who do I want to be? How do I want to carry forward? Yeah, I mean, I think that's what it basically boils down to. And I think that it's always important to consider there's always somebody else who's hurting more or struggling more. And if there's a way to help that person or to reach out, or there's always somebody who's in a tougher position. It's really funny, like, okay, I'll give you your positive note. You saw the guy on the video clip of the guy in Italy, the older guy who was like pissed off because there was no more pasta left on the shelves?
Oh, no, I haven't.
Did you see this clip?
No.
It's hilarious. He's like an older man, senior citizen, and he's like, it wasn't even this bad in World War II. And he's disgusted. He's not even scared. He's like, what the hell? And he just walks out of the shop. And I was like, once you've kind of seen it, he was like, he wasn't even fazed, but he was angry because he's like, what the hell, people? It was, yeah.
Stephanie, I think this will be enough for this talk. But eventually, I just want to say thank you. Sorry that we don't get to hang out. It's not my fault at the moment. But we should definitely take our dogs out at a social distance sometime soon.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. Thanks for having me, Fabio. I really appreciate it.
Stephanie,
Let's
don't go
walking.
anywhere. I'm going to stop the recording.
Okay.
See you later. Bye.
Okay. Bye.